It is very, very nice to see people on campus. I'm sure it's equally as nice for you to get out of the house, possibly. And we'd like to welcome you, and we'd like to thank everybody who helped put this on. We are new, so organizing these things is a little different in a larger school. So we'd like to thank Miss Annie and everybody who has orchestrated from estates. And we'd like to ask that you hold your questions until the end. I know there might be quite a few questions. We are going to have an activity where we are going to have live questions. That activity is going to be one of the first things we do. So we will interact during that activity. Anything else, if you wouldn't mind holding it until the end. Hopefully we'll have some time at the end for some Q&A. So I'd like to introduce myself. We're going to do that here. Oh, let me go through the agenda first. I'm sorry. So we're going to do a few things today. We'd like to show you where we store our documents. Okay, so today's agenda, again, we're going to start with a little activity. We're going to ask for 9 volunteers. If you don't volunteer, I'm going to be one of those teachers who puts you on the spot and gives you a piece of paper. It's quite an easy activity, so there's nothing to be too nervous about. It's called the Great Sorting Game. Then we're going to look at best fit. I think a lot of parents are looking for universities that are within reach, some a little bit out of reach, but we're going to talk about how that works. And we want to make sure that we are finding universities, colleges, programs that are best suited for your son or daughter. Application overview. Applications tend to be very different at times and very similar at times. So we're going to look at some of the similarities, some of the differences. You're often going to hear from students particularly that applications are very, very difficult. That is not necessarily true most of the time. What makes them difficult is the amount of time it takes to complete an accurate, comprehensive application. So when you hear that they're difficult, most of the time that is in reference to time. They do take time if you want to make sure they're correct. We do have a chance to look at these things for your son and daughter, but most of the responsibility lies on the family, so we'll go through some of those things also. Shortlists. Right now, and what we're hoping we can do is we're trying to work our way down to year 10, so they have a 4-year plan, they're prepared to do these things. We are going to be having individual meetings with your son and daughter, or daughter, soon. And what your son or daughter should be doing right now in working with you is a long list. So what we're trying to do with a long list is try and find universities that are compatible for your son or daughter. And when we come back to school next year, we want to have a short list, and we'll talk a little bit about that later. Events and deadlines. We're trying to organize a lot of things for you and for your child that will present accurate, detailed information so you can make informed decisions. We'll talk a little bit about that. Resources. We're going to talk about some of the places you can find resources that we have that we give directly to you or your son and daughter. We have plenty of those, and those are always good. And again, if we're pretty sure we're going to have some time at the end for Q&A. We do have a lot of people watching online. We will take questions there. We're going to try and answer as many as we can. The questions we cannot answer today, we will most certainly try and put something together so we can get you that information at another time. Okay, one of the most important people in the school, Mr. John.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rob. I wouldn't say I'm one of the most important people in the school. I just really wanted to come up this morning because it's been a very long time since I've had an opportunity to actually speak to you as parents. And there may well be parents in here who go, who is this Mr. John? We keep hearing him sending us emails, but we've no idea who he is. For those parents, this is me. And I'm not going to speak very much today about university applications for your son and daughter because Rob and Elisa are the specialists. But I just want to give you really an overview of what's going on in year 12 at the moment. Your sons and daughters have done incredibly well over the last sort of 2 terms. But as we move towards the end of term 2, and certainly when we move into term 3, the year 13s will be leaving St. Andrews in 6 weeks' time. And really, when the year 13s leave, your sons and daughters will be the most senior students in the school. And certainly in term 3, there is going to be a lot more pressure being placed on your sons and daughters as they move through the IB. Okay? So not only are they going to have the university application process to go through, but they are going to be starting to get official IB deadlines for work that needs to be completed. And very, very often what happens is students are very good at shielding parents from what's really going on in school. And the first you normally hear about it is when you normally get an email, probably from me, saying your son or daughter has failed to do something. Okay? And that often leads to a discussion and an email conversation. I would like to ask all of you, and as I will ask all parents in year 12, and also any new parents that join us, to make sure that you keep those lines of communication open with your sons and daughters. Completing the IB diploma or the IB courses is not easy, okay? And it's something that I'm, in retrospect, quite glad I didn't do. Okay, I did my A-levels because the IB wasn't available many years ago, but I would really encourage all of you to make sure you keep those lines of communication open with your sons and daughters. Okay, all of their work, all of their deadlines will be shared with parents on Moodle. But obviously, as your sons and daughters get older, they want more independence, and they may say, Mum, Dad, you don't need to keep checking up on me. Please do keep checking up on them discreetly, because you will find there will become times, certainly in term 1 of year 13, where we get bottlenecks appear. Okay, we plan out all of their work, so hopefully it's spaced out, okay, and they know when their work is completed, but occasionally there will be natural bottlenecks that form, where they may have 2 or 3 pieces of significant work that are due within a 10-day window. And this can lead to incredible stress and incredible anxiety on the student, and very often that stress and that anxiety forms into a sort of like a positive feedback loop, and they start to avoid work and avoid school and avoid telling you what's going on. Okay? So for their well-being and also for their success, which will also help, hopefully, them get into the best possible universities and follow the best possible courses, I would like to ask all parents here just to please make sure that we keep an eye on your sons and daughters, because if we can reduce their stress and we can reduce their workload, okay, then we can hopefully get the best possible results from them, which I believe is what we both would like for your sons and daughters. Okay? As always, if you have any questions or anything you want to know or you're not sure about, or hopefully have my email address, please feel free to drop me a line and let me know what your concerns are, and I will I will get back to you within 48 hours. Okay? So enjoy the presentation from Mr. Rob and Miss Elisa, and have a great day. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. John. That was a great prelude into what we're going to talk about today, because IBDP is very rigorous. What they're going to go into in year 13 is very, very rigorous. Being organized, having a calendar, setting dates and deadlines is really, really going to help with their university applications. Because what we've seen a few times this year, being new, we didn't have a real good awareness of the culture of the school. Things can come crashing down last minute, and that is not when you want an application to be put together and submitted. When we have deadlines, guidelines, plans, you talk to Mr. John, find out what's happening. Don't let that bottleneck happen. I think you're going to find that a university application is going to be much easier. It's going to be much better, and it's going to be something that university admissions is going to read and look at. Our whole goal is to make sure that someone looks at our application and it proceeds to the next step until hopefully admissions. So that was a great prelude to what we're going to do today. Okay, well, we are both new this year. I don't know where you were of the counseling department before. There was only one. She was extremely busy. We have 2, and this is very beneficial for everybody. So again, we're trying to work our way down. We're trying to change the format, change some of the counseling curriculum to make everything more efficient and better for everybody. So my name is Mr. Rob McClure. I'm from the United States. I have been doing this job along with some teaching in Korea for a very long time, have quite some experience. Miss Elisa, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Elisa. I'm also from the United States originally. I've been in education for many, many years and in this particular role for quite some time. Rob and I, as he said, we're both new to St. Andrews this year. Very excited to be here. Very excited to be working with your students, your sons or daughters over the next few years. And I'm going to ask for our baton. Passing the baton.
Okay.
All right. We are going to make this as interactive as possible, starting with a sort of an icebreaker type of game. So we're going to have 9 of you come up to the front. So if Rob has given you a card, we're going to ask you to come on up to the front. And we're going to have you line up in order. Come on up. Come on up. Thank you, everybody. That's right. So come on down. Okay. We're going to have you have your card facing outward so we see the number. Perfect. Okay. For those of you that have a card, you have some descriptions on the back. I want you to read those and get ready because you're going to be listening for those items.
Thank you.
Okay, now, as you can see behind you, for students who are doing the IB Diploma program, the highest score is 45. So what we're going to have you do is get an order from 45 over here all the way down. So you guys can get in order of highest to lowest. We're going to have 45 over here. Perfect. Okay. Now, all of these, let's pretend they're all students and they're going to be applying to a university. Now, we would probably expect that the students with the highest scores, so maybe 45, 42, and 40, would be the most eligible candidates to get into a university. However, they have been preparing over the last few years some good things and some maybe not so good things, and we're going to see what happens in the end based on how they've prepared. So we have our admissions director, Mr. Rob, who is going to be reading the criteria. And as you hear that description, you're going to have instructions either to move up or to move down. So, number 1.
You have taken 4 IBDPHL classes instead of the usual 3. If you have done this, move up 2 spaces. If you have taken 4 IBDPHL classes.
That's right.
Thank you.
All right.
Number 2. You play the Oboe, and you're good at it. Move up 1 space, please. Oboe, Oboe, this instrument right here on the screen. How do you say Oboe? Oboe. Yep. We're going to go oboe.
So move up. Now you're going to come this way. That's right.
It is. It is.
So you might be curious about why this particular student got to move up 1 space. You notice that we're not saying violin or piano because there are so many students who are very good at the violin or piano. Now, some universities are looking to fill spaces in an orchestra, so at times, very unique instruments make you really stand out. So that's a bonus. Next one.
You chose to take IBDPHL Mathematics, Analysis and Approaches, and Physics. Move up 1 space. HL Math, Analysis, and Physics. Move up one space, please.
You have chosen the most challenging courses available in the IB diploma. Well
Who?
done.
Math, AA, and physics. Did we have movement there?
Yes.
Great.
Next one.
You clearly stated that this university is your first choice by applying early decision, which is a binding agreement that says you'll attend if admitted. If you are this person, move up 2 spaces, please.
Well done.
Number 5. You plan to major in psychology. Move down 1 space, please.
Oh no. Who's majoring in psychology?
Please move down 1 space. Who is taking psychology?
Any ideas why she might be moving down for psychology? It's so popular. That's right. So it becomes automatically more competitive. Next one.
You plan to major in pre-med. Move down 1 space. Pre-med.
Again, very, very competitive. We have a lot of pre-med students who want to study medicine, so keep that in mind.
Next. You plan to major in a STEM field like chemistry, computer science, engineering, or mathematics. Move up 2 spaces.
Well done. Next one.
You had trouble finding someone to write your recommendation letters because you don't know your teachers very well. Move down 2 spaces. When you submitted your applications, you forgot to change the names of the universities to which you were applying. Move down 4 spaces. This is why we check applications ahead of time the best we can. Big no-no. Your brother is a sophomore, year 2. Your brother is a sophomore at this college. Move up 2 spaces. Your brother is a sophomore.
Well done. So universities tend to like legacy. So if a sibling is committed to that university or the mother or father have attended there, oftentimes there's an advantage.
You thought they meant it when they said the optional key word here, optional essay was optional. So you didn't write it. Move down 1 space.
So in university counseling, optional does not mean optional.
Your college essay about sports focused on your coach instead of on your own athletic growth. Move down 1 space.
Next.
You wrote the best essay of the year. It was passed around the admissions office because it was so good. Move up 3 spaces.
Yay.
Nice essay.
Well done. Next one.
You plagiarized your EE, your extended essay, and you got caught. Move all the way down to the end and stay there for the rest of the game. Do not move.
You can stay.
You can stay. You will be the first person in your family to attend college or university. Move up 2 spaces.
All right.
You participated in an enrichment summer program between years 12 and 13. Move up 2 spaces, please. You have not participated in any extracurricular activities. You don't have an after-school job, and you don't have responsibilities at home to care for younger siblings. Move down 3 spaces. Where's my, did I skip one? Your extracurricular activities. I'll just read this on the screen then. Your extracurricular activities include MUN, leadership, and caring for younger siblings. Move up one space. Oh, there it is. You are a black belt in karate. Move up 2 spaces. Karate black belt.
So this one in particular shows a lot of consistency and perseverance because they have achieved the highest level. It shows a lot of dedication as opposed to just being a white belt in karate.
You are a varsity athlete. Move up 2 spaces. If you are a varsity athlete who took a second, that same varsity athlete, if you took second place at a regional competition in your sport, move up 1 space. You got a 2 in your IBHL class in term 2 of year 12. Move down 3 spaces.
So remember, the highest score is out of 7, so a 2 is quite low.
You emailed the admissions representative to ask questions and tell them about your interest in the university. And in this case, and in the case of the student who got a 2, you offered an explanation of that grade. Move up 1 space. You have Bhutanese citizenship. Move up 3 spaces.
Any ideas why this might be? There's not a lot of citizens from Bhutan applying to universities, so it represents a lot of diversity. Anybody from Bhutan?
You never gave your university counselor your brag sheet to use when writing your recommendation letter. Move down 1 space.
Our last one.
Your last name is Winfrey. The name on the library is Winfrey, and it's not a coincidence. Move all the way to the front of the line and stay there. Miss Winfrey.
Miss Winfrey, come on down. Okay. So this is the end. That's how our students have prepared. So everybody hold up your cards nice and high. So where's 45 now? Oh my goodness. These were the top 3 students in the beginning of the game. Now we have 27, 37, and 35. So we hope this illustrates that what your sons and daughters do to prepare for their university applications will affect their applications almost as much, or depends on sometimes as much as their grades. Grades are not the only factors. Exams are not the only factors. So thank you so much. Let's give everybody a hand. And you can give Rob your card on the way back, or leave it up there. Thank you.
That might even be better. Thank you. Thank you for your participation.
So we can take some time to ask some questions now. Did you have any questions? Was there any surprises throughout this process? Yes.
Would you mind? We have people online also. Thank you very much.
Hi, I just have one question. What was the last what does it mean?
So that's a great question. So Winfrey is, if you've heard of Oprah Winfrey, she is a very, very wealthy individual. So this is sort of a joke, sort of not a joke. What it says is a lot of times when students are able to contribute, or their families rather, are able to contribute to the university, then that gives them an advantage in their applications. In the same way, families who are able to pay the full price of tuition, there's an advantage over families that are not able to pay the full price. That's not always the case, but that's often the case. Again, this is sort of a joke to emphasize the point. This is not really true, this wouldn't happen. This would not be an automatic and a given. But it does sort of emphasize that funding and finances are an important factor in the application process for better or worse. Yeah. Any other questions?
Yes. My son will attend school. He picked university in the U.S. and it required the SAT score.
Yes.
So can you give us more explanations, how it is important for the admissions, to the U.S. university?
Would you mind, we have a slide on SAT scores and testing that is necessary for some university applications. Would you mind if we answer that question in a little bit?
Okay.
We may answer your question through the slide. Thank you very,
that would
very
be
much.
great.
Yeah, thank you. Great question. All right. So another question for you today. Any idea how many days until our first early application deadline? Yes.
December? December this year?
That's right. So we have some really good guesses, and generally you're all on the right track. It will happen in term 1 of year 13. The early application deadline happens in October. So it's 235 days, 7 months, 3 weeks. Now, that is enough time to prepare, which is absolutely great. It's also not enough time to waste time. So it's important that students really get going and understand the importance of their preparation now. All right, another question for you. Why don't you just think about the best food? Take a couple seconds and think about what's the best food.
Yes.
Someone from home asking what kinds of summer courses and programs you mentioned that will be beneficial to move up.
Okay, this is relevant for everybody. Thank you for the online question. We appreciate, again, attendance from everywhere. Summer programs, basically what universities want to see is that your son or daughter is not sitting around all summer doing nothing. Playing video games, sitting around relaxing. It's nice to relax. IBDP is extremely rigorous, more so for some than others. Summer programs are vast and vary greatly. In the United States, for example, some students don't have financial ability to pay for their own university. Meanwhile, they have a friend who's well prepared financially for university. So they don't have to work. They can take some online courses. They can join a summer program. They can do something online that costs $2,000 for 2 weeks. The other student has to work. So when these two students submit their applications, are they going to be looked at differently? No. There is an explanation for why one student had to work and the other had the chance to do all these activities. So in the United States, that is one good thing that we have access to is flexibility and opportunity with equal applications. So I would advise you, has everyone heard about the Google Classroom? We're going to talk about that in a little bit too. You probably don't have access to it, but your son or daughter does. We post activities, internships, opportunities, online courses. We're going to talk a little bit more about the Google Classroom later. If you have concerns about what they might want to do in the summer as far as activity, contact us. We'd be more than happy to talk to you about that. Pretty much anything academic, anything volunteer, community service, doing something that is beneficial to the student, to the community, or to the school is going to be looked at very highly. I hope that answers that question to a certain degree. Yes.
Is this only applying to U.S. and Australian schools, or does this also apply to UK schools?
I think that's something that we're going to answer as we go along. If we don't answer that, then please ask your specific question again. Thank you. That's a great question. Okay.
It's beneficial all the way around. We'll go into more detail later.
And another way to say that is your children are already doing CAS. So they are already doing many, many service activities, whether through the school year or over the summer. So that is something that they're already doing, and there are ways and recommendations to enhance that through Google Classroom and also the website that we'll be introducing at the end. All right, you've had a little bit of time to think about the best food. Anybody want to call out what the best food is? Mixed salad? Avocado? Sushi? Some sort of protein? Yeah. Yeah, so we have a whole lot of different answers. We have a whole lot of different people in here with many different opinions. And I also wonder if everybody would like eating a mixed salad on a really cold day when it's snowing outside and they're around their family for a celebration. Maybe not. So a lot of times this is going to depend. It's going to depend on you and your tastes, your culture, the time of day, who you're with, what you're celebrating or not celebrating, whether you're on a diet. There's a whole lot of factors to consider here. Now I'm going to ask you, what's the best university? So in the same way, this is going to depend. Your sons and daughters have very, very unique circumstances and needs, and we are going to help them to consider what is the best university for them and their circumstances. And that's something that we will be addressing today. Now, it's important to remember that there are more than 26,000 universities worldwide, so there is a lot of researching and consideration to be done. One way to narrow it down from 26,000 to the recommended 6 to 10 university applications that they will submit is through considering something called best fit. And that's what Mr. Rob and I are here to do, is to help your sons and daughters find universities that fit them really, really well. So some factors to consider through best fit, things like location. So what type of city do they want to be in? Do they want to be in a big urban area like Bangkok? Do they want to get outside of the city where the air is fresh and there's a lot of nature? Or do they want to be somewhere in between? Our students here are so used to really warm tropical weather. What will happen if they go to Canada where it's negative 20 degrees during the winter? That's definitely something to consider. How long do they want the flight to be? So if how far away, yes, but also how long. If they're in a smaller city that doesn't have an airport, then it might take longer to access you over their summer holiday. But then also, does the community have Thai or other cultural communities that they want to be around for some familiarity? Population, so what is the size? So a small university might be under 5,000 students where there's a lot of close-knit community, they have access to professors, and they see familiar faces every day. Whereas mid-size, large, or extra large universities might have access to a lot of sporting events. They get to meet a whole lot of new people and see new faces every day. So what's their personality like in that regard? Social fit. So on a similar thought, do they like a lot of school spirit? Do they get really excited about sports events and wearing school colors? What sort of diversity are they looking for? Do they want to be around a lot of international students where they feel very comfortable? Do they want some sort of other diversity? Do they want to be at an all-male or all-female university? Believe it or not, that does exist. Or do they want to be in a co-ed situation? And there are many universities with a religious affiliation, so if that's important to your family, that's something to consider as well. Financial, probably more important for you than your son or daughter is thinking about right now. But when you're thinking about the total cost of sending your child away, you're going to think about tuition and also their living expenses. Do you want them to get a part-time job? If so, what are the rules in that country where they are going. FYI, most countries do allow students to have a part-time job for up to 20 hours. So that's probably good news for you. Do you want them to look for scholarships, like merit-based for their academic achievement, or need-based based on family financial circumstances? And then lastly, this is an interesting one. So we have two different types of countries. We have one that considers the brain and one that considers the heart. So most of the world is going to be looking at the brain. How prepared academically are students to study this particular course? In the US, they are looking at how is a student holistically? What is their personality like? Who are they as a human being? And of course, there are some countries that fall in the middle, probably many more than that. But this is an interesting differentiation. So most of the world is going to be, again, looking at the head, and they're looking at how prepared somebody is for a course. That means that students must know exactly what they want to study before they enter the university, because they focus solely on the course. There are no broad classes that they take before that. They go straight into the course. And some of the ways that they're prepared to study that course is through co- or supercurricular activities. So if I want to become a doctor, I will have had an internship in a hospital. I will have taken online classes about medicine. I will have all sorts of activities related to studying medicine. Because they focus solely on the course of study, the degree tends to be 3 years long. Whereas in North America, again, it's the heart. They have something called a major, which we can use interchangeably, course or major, but that's what they call it in America. Now, the unique thing about America is that students can be undecided. They expect students to not know what they want to study or to change their mind many times. So students who have no idea what they want to do, that's perfectly fine if they want to study in America, because they will take a broad range of classes before they go on to study their major. Again, looking at the well-rounded aspects. So if I want to become a doctor in America, I can play sports, I can play the violin, I can do theater, and I can do an internship at a hospital, and that makes me very prepared to apply to a university in America. And then again, the difference you might find important to consider is that this will be a 4-year degree. All right, we're going to switch gears a little bit and now look at the application process. You're going to get very familiar with a couple of these application portals, but we will make sure that your sons and daughters are prepared as they start their applications. What is an application? Basically, it's a form. Usually it is online. In rare cases, it might be handwritten. And it's going to include the following. So their academic performance, which does include teacher grades. So how they're performing in class is very important. Their homework, their attendance, how they are performing in class. Part of that is also their predicted grades. They will be applying before their exams are released. So universities will be considering their predicted grades when students submit their application. The strength of curriculum means how, what sorts of classes is the student choosing to take. So remember when we had the student that took higher level AA mathematics and physics, they had a bonus because they were really challenging themselves. Now the good news is IGCSE, IB, and BTEC are all considered to be very, very rigorous courses of study, and they are very highly regarded at universities worldwide. Of course, they also consider exams. So we have IGCSE and IB and how well they perform on those. We also have the SAT and ACT, and TOEFL and IELTS. Again, we're going to get more into these ones in just a moment. Now, you'll notice that all of these aspects, students are very, very prepared through the curriculum already happening at St. Andrews. Now, it might be a surprise to you to see that SAT and ACT and TOEFL and IELTS are included in this, but actually what they are learning in their math and English classes now directly helps them on the SAT exam without them going to an exam center to study. So that's great news. And then we have some other elements. So we have some essays. I'm going to touch on them very briefly, and then Rob is going to go into more depth. But the essays, we have personal statements that are written for universities all around the world, usually and primarily in the UK, but also applies to other countries. Common App essays are unique to the USA. And then supplemental essays, a lot of universities have their own prompt that they ask for, dependent on the university, dependent on the country. Then, of course, we have recommendations. So a reference is a combined letter. And then letters of recommendation are written by teachers and a counselor. And then, of course, we have extra and supercurricular activities. Now, we've talked about those a little bit, and that happens through CAS, and students are naturally doing this through pursuing their own activities as well as ECAs. These will be listed on their applications through something called an activities list, or sometimes on a CV or resume. And then there are optional elements. Sometimes universities ask specifically for a CV or resume, sometimes they don't. There is sometimes an interview, and sometimes, depending on the course, there may be a portfolio or an audition. Now, again, these sometimes are needed and sometimes they're not. It really, really depends on the unique country and the unique university. So it's very important that your son or daughter pays very close attention to the requirements. And of course, they will be helped on all of these elements through university counseling workshops, as well as individual support through individual meetings. And I'm going to pass it over.
Okay, let's look at a couple things here about personal statements. A personal statement is highly structured. What we try and encourage the student to do, and we will give them, again, resources. Hello? Okay. We will give them plenty of resources, examples of personal statements. A personal statement, it shows academic achievement, knowledge learned in school, knowledge learned through supercurricular activities, why these skills and experiences make a student a good fit, and it's required for all students in certain situations. So we will be having a personal statement workshop in March. We also, like I said, we provide plenty of resources, examples, guidance on how to put this together. So it's very, very important that your student, your son or daughter, is working on this. We know they're very busy right now. Again, we're going to be meeting with your son or daughter individually in the next couple of weeks. We will be providing them with information. We highly, highly advise that they start a draft at the end of this school year and work on that all through summer. Again, we can refine it over the summer. We would like to see a pretty good draft of a personal statement when they come back to school in the fall. Common App essays and the USA. Again, the personal statement focuses on academics, achievements through the area of interest, what they've done to support that interest. A Common App essay is quite different. There are 7 prompts that the student can choose from. So whatever they feel more comfortable with, or what they have in common with a certain prompt, is probably where they want to go. They could also write 2. They could use 2 prompts and prepare 2 essays, and then we can have a look and see which one may be more appropriate. Shows personality, values, growth, perseverance, things they've overcome. The most difficult part is finding a topic. Again, they have choices, so it shouldn't be all that difficult for some students, but occasionally students really worry about which one is going to be most beneficial for what they want to do. So we're going to have a workshop on that in May. Again, we'd like them to revise, draft over the summer so they are prepared. And this is very important. It's not an easy task, and it's not something, unless you're very good in literature or writing, if you're an expert in that area. High school students, some tend to be that way. We find that many need a certain amount of time to make sure something comes through that is appropriate and well established. Supplemental essays, some universities require this. They will provide their own prompt. They will provide their own guidance on what they want in this supplemental essay. We will talk about that if those are necessary, and this varies university to university. Typically, the higher level universities in the United States, they will want a supplemental essay of some kind, so we will try and work with the student on preparing a supplemental essay. Written in year 13, again, if your son or daughter knows exactly where they want to go, they can research that university and find out if this is going to be necessary. So if they know it's going to be necessary, something that they can consider working on over the summer. Some students, again, they're still researching, they're shortlisting, long listing at this point, so they might not know if they're going to need this. So we will discover this in the fall, and again, we will work with them to make sure that is relevant and accurate. This one is very, very important, and we're really working hard to reach the students to have them understand how important these letters are. So a reference. The UK reference is an amalgamation, so we contact each teacher and ask them for a short paragraph of what that student has done academically, achieved academically in the class. So we will take all that information and put it together into a reference. So this is, when I mean amalgamation, we are taking bits and pieces from every teacher that your student has come in contact with, and we're trying to put the best reference together that shows how they achieved academically in that classroom. This will be composed by the tutor, so the tutor will receive this information. The tutors are very well versed on putting these together, so they will amalgamate the best possible letter they can. Letters of recommendation, mainly for USA, Thailand, Japan, Korea, and there'll be some other universities floating around out there that may want one, but these are your main countries. And there's a possibility they will need no letter of recommendation, depending on the university. Most you will find are 1 or 2. Sometimes there's an optional one. Again, if we can provide something optional, we're going to do that because it is beneficial. Counsel recommendation, myself or Elisa always have to complete a recommendation for most USA applications and the countries mentioned here. A brag sheet. Many students interact well with their teachers. Their teacher knows them very, very well. Sometimes a brag sheet will not be necessary because the teacher knows what they do in school. They talk with the student. They have stories about the student, and they're able to write one without that. Many times, because of efficiency and how busy people are in school, they might not have that chance to have 15-minute, 20-minute conversations about their lives on a regular basis. A brag sheet is given to a student to complete to provide the teacher legitimate, outstanding, accurate information about a student so they can put together a letter that will benefit the student in the admissions process. we do ask the student to try and find a teacher who's going to provide a favorable letter. So for example, people just don't get along all the time. It's just a fact of life. So a student maybe is going into engineering. Obviously, a physics teacher would be a great person to write a letter. Maybe they don't have the greatest relationship with that teacher. At that point, again, we would hope that they would, or they could rectify this relationship. If they don't, and it's not a bad relationship with a teacher, or it's not a great relationship with a teacher, we would ask that student to find a teacher who's going to write something favorable. We want to make sure we're providing a university with a good representation of this student. Again, everyone doesn't get along, so that can be a factor at times. One thing I forgot to mention about these letters. Typically, the counselor recommendation is the most important recommendation letter they're going to receive. Not far behind that are teacher recommendations. What we need your children to understand is that we observe, we talk to teachers, the teachers observe, the teachers interact with us. We know about your son or daughter. We highly advise you have conversations with your son or daughter, if necessary, to make sure they are respecting their teachers. They're showing up on time. They work well in groups. They are bringing their work to class on time, in full, following direction. These are very essential pieces to input into a recommendation letter with value. Again, value in recommendation letters is extremely important. So those are some things that we want to pay attention to. Your SAT questions. I might not answer everything you want. Feel free to ask a question at the end if I don't cover what you need. Typically, SAT is the more common test that students take. ACT is also a college entrance exam. If you haven't heard of it, that is also a possibility. Mostly these exams are going to be required for Thailand and the United States. COVID-19 has put a little wrinkle in a lot of these things. Some tests have been canceled, which means, as Mr. John mentioned, the bottleneck, right? So if a test is canceled, you have a lot of students who are trying to find a place to take an SAT. So this has been a challenge a little bit the last couple of years. Now, as you're doing your research, you might find that some colleges, universities are test optional, test flexible. Again, optional, it's a great word to hear, and it can be misconstrued by a student thinking, optional, I'm so busy in year 13, if I don't have to do this, I'm not going to do it. Optional means they will take your score if you want them to take your score, most of the time. If it is optional, again, we recommend, highly recommend that a student does take this test because it could benefit in some way. So if you have questions about test optional universities or colleges and you're not sure what to do about it, you can contact us anytime and we'll be sure to go through that with you. But again, optional, we like to say nearly mandatory if possible. ACT and SAT both are equally accepted. Again, the SAT is more common. We hold that exam here. You can go online and find the test dates. It's quite easy to register. I guess what I should say also, we have found that there are a lot of year 12s that have not taken the SAT. As a counselor in America, in year 10, most students take a PSAT, which is a practice SAT. That sets them up for, obviously, the SAT. In the United States, as a counselor, most students are taking the SAT in year 12, at least one time, we hope 2 times. The first time is kind of an experience that is new, and typically the second time they take the exam, their score will increase because they've seen the results from the first one, they know what the area of need is, they know where to prepare for the next time, the score goes up. Another reason it's good to take in year 12 is for their shortlisting. They can see what the university is expecting. They know what their score is. They have a chance to improve, study, self-study in the summer. If necessary, they can take it in year 13. So we have a lot of year 13s taking the SAT. We would prefer to see some results in year 12. So we're trying to change that. If your son or daughter has not signed up for an SAT, I would highly recommend having a conversation this evening, especially if they're going to an SAT country, because, again, as Mr. John mentioned, that bottleneck. There are a lot of students trying to sign up for an SAT right now, and there are very limited spaces. So if this is something you think you're going to need, something to think about very quickly. TOEFL and IELTS. These are both English proficiency exams. As international students, international schools, university, they want to know how you're going to be able to sit in a classroom that has an English medium. So they're going to want to see a score often that is going to say, okay, we know this student is going to be eligible and can sit in an English-speaking classroom and be able to get the most out of it. Now, sometimes you will find that an IELTS or a TOEFL is not needed for some reason because they are at St. Andrews International School. We teach everything in English, English medium school. If you've done this for 4 years, you've graduated IBDP, we're pretty sure that your English ability is sufficient to get into this university. This is going to vary from university to university also. Some universities will say, you went to English school at St. Andrews, everything was taught in English, that's good enough. No need for an IELTS or TOEFL. Sometimes they'll say, were you taking English A, SL, and did you get this score? If you did, we'll waive the IELTS or TOEFL. Some will say, if you're taking English A, HL, we know that's a difficult class. We're pretty sure that your English is going to be good enough. So something to pay attention to whether they need this. Years 10 through 13, the IELTS and TOEFL are offered quite often. So it's not a sense of urgency sometimes, but we would, again, the earlier you can have these things completed, see the results, that's going to help you do research also. And again, some students are going to be required to take it for a visa. SDA students typically are going to score well. Again, without studying for it, not that we're saying that they shouldn't prepare, because they are sitting in English classrooms all the time, typically they're going to do pretty well. And again, should be finished already. Again, we're trying to change some things. We're trying to move things forward. Year 12s, it would be very beneficial if they could take one of these exams, if they know they're going to need it, and that will help us do some research.
All right, so we're going to look a little bit more closely at the recommended exam schedule. So good news is that you and your son or daughter are already finished with this year. They're done. They don't need to worry about that anymore. The exam focus last year was, of course, IGCSEs. So what's happening in year 12? We like to say that term 1 is the focus is IELTS and TOEFL. Why is that? The recommendation is made because the IBDP only becomes more and more and more difficult. So term 1 is relatively easy. They have time to do this relatively simple exam because, again, they're very prepared, very good English speakers. They can just get it done and out of the way. It's one less thing that they have to worry about as year 12 moves on and year 13 becomes very, very hectic and frantic. So the focus, again, term 1 is going to be IELTS and TOEFL with a little bit of PSAT in the middle, which is a practice test that was an optional sign up that some of your sons or daughters may have taken. The SAT Again, we recommend that they get all of the testing done in year 12 so that they can focus in year 13 on their applications and, of course, the most important thing, which is their academics. Now, the recommended schedule, if your son or daughter wants to take the SAT, would be the first time in March or May, the second time in May or June, and then the third and final last try would be in August, which I'll show you in a minute. Now, one thing that I'd like to say on this is that the March exam is already full. Exams fill up very, very quickly in Thailand. So if your son or daughter has not signed up for the May exam, I encourage you to have them do that as soon as possible. If they prefer to take the ACT, which again is considered the equivalent, there is no benefit of taking SAT over ACT. They're both equally accepted. Sometimes I hear that as a myth. The first take then would be in April, the second in June, and then the last one over the summer. Coming back into year 13, you'll notice that that's done. Again, if they want to take the SAT, the last time will be in August, and then they are finished. All they need to do now is focus on their applications and exams. IB exams, I should specify. Okay, our next question for you. So this is an interesting one. Rob and I have been university counselors for a number of years already. We've worked with year 13 students through the process. I want you to guess how many universities we have gotten students into. Any ideas? 100? More? Thousands? Too many to count, maybe? The answer is 0. Now, that might surprise you until you realize that we aren't the ones doing the job for the student. It is their responsibility to do the work to get themselves in. We're the guide on the side. They are the ones that are putting themselves into this application, submitting it, and doing the work. So therefore, it's important to help them to have a balanced list of universities. Now, we want them to aim high, dream big. But we would be terrible counselors if we didn't make sure that they had a backup plan. So to that end, it's very important to have a very balanced list of universities when they do apply. So we encourage students to apply to 6 to 10 universities or programs. Anything more than that, and they will probably be stretched too thin. Applications take many, many hours to complete, and if they're completing 30, they won't have time to complete successful applications, nor will they have time to do any of their schoolwork. So we really want them to focus, choose wisely, and focus in on no more than 10 applications. Now, we like to have them apply to different categories of universities. So I'm going to explain that in just a minute. So a likely university is one where the student is at the top of the applicant pool. They are a very attractive applicant to the university. They have about a 75% chance of acceptance. They're very likely to be accepted. For that, these can be very special schools if you are looking for scholarships, because universities really want to attract them, so they often offer a lot of money for your child to attend. Now, we encourage students to apply to about 2 to 3 of these universities. The next category is target. That's where they are right in the middle of the applicant pool. They're a really, really good match. They have about a 50% chance of acceptance. And again, that will be about 2 to 3. A reach university, those are the rocket universities. That's where they're dreaming. They have about a 25% chance of acceptance. They're at the bottom of the applicant pool, but we still really encourage them to try. So again, that will be about 2 to 3. Now, the far reach universities are those that have a tiny chance of acceptance. Now, we don't want your children to focus on these ones exclusively. If they do apply to one, there might be a case-by-case basis where we say, yes, that's okay, but definitely no more than one. We want them to be realistic so that they are successful and can feel really proud of their acceptances. Now, Rob likes to call it 333, so sometimes you might hear that. You might hear these different categories said in a different way, but generally this is how it's broken down. And again, it's important to be realistic. So if your son or daughter has listed all reach or far reach universities, then we are going to suggest that they choose some likely and target universities. Because of COVID, we can't predict what's happening or what will happen very well these days. Hopefully we're moving in the right direction, but we just never know. So to that end, over the last few years, some of the families that I've worked with, it's been important for them to have a financial safety university, and sometimes students want to stay closer to home. So just consider adding some extra universities to their list. We would like input from you as well as in school. So to that end, what we're going to have at the end of year 12 is something called a student-led conference, which is a meeting in June where your son or daughter is going to share their very unique plan for life after St. Andrews. That way, you can give input, we can give input, and then they can come up with a great plan over the summer and be ready to apply in year 13. So they're going to share the course or major that they want to study, the career that they want to have, the countries that they want to apply to. Now remember, this is a very key aspect because depending on the country they will apply to, their application process might be very different. So it's really important to know sooner than later and make some decisions on that. And then they're going to share 3 universities that they are excited about. One that is a reach or a dream, one of the red schools, a target, or a likely. So they're going to choose one from each category so that we understand that they know exactly where they fit. And they're going to tell us what the application process is like, why they're interested in that particular university, and their chances of acceptance. At this time, you will be able to ask all of your specific questions too. So this isn't just time for your son or daughter, this is time for you to ask questions about their specific situation. So please be ready to ask your questions. And then again, they will be really, really prepared to come back to year 13, ready to go, ready to apply. And on that note, I'm going to pass it over.
Is this the other one? I realized it wasn't working. University application milestones and deadlines. I'm not going to spend too much time here because, again, we're hoping that your son or daughter is going to do the research, start soon. Again, our individual meetings are coming. We're going to give them some advice, some tasks, some summer things to do. What we have coming up for year 12's well-being workshops. There are going to be 6 sessions that we are going to introduce some information, guide them, again, give them some advice. Compulsory, mandatory individual meetings will happen very soon. Mine are going to start on Friday. If you might want to mention this to your son or daughter sometime over the next few days. They will be receiving an email with a Google Meet invite. We would like them to accept that invite. It is going to be during the school day. It'll be 30 minutes. Their teachers are aware they will miss class for 30 minutes, but this is where we're going to provide some very critical information that you need to be aware of. So it would be helpful if you would have conversations with your children about these. Thai University Fair, we're very excited about this. It is going to be a little bit difficult. We're hoping to get as much participation as possible, but we are inviting Thai universities to the campus to put on a university fair. Again, we're very excited about this because we love to see people coming to the school and we're able to interact face to face, not only with us, with the university reps. And again, communication and relationships with these universities are very important for us. Application week, that'll be in May. We're going to talk in more detail about applications and possibilities. Miss Elisa just mentioned the student-led conferences. Those will be in June. Again, student-led is the key word there, key words. We want them to show their preparedness during that meeting. And again, we will give advice and guide if we need to. Summer task list. This will be given to your child in their mandatory Year 12 meeting. This is going to provide very, very important information for the summer. And again, the more of this they can do, the more of it they can accomplish this summer, it is really going to make their lives easier when they come in for Year 13. Year 13, like I said, is very hectic, very busy, needs to be calendared, needs to be scheduled. The more prepared and organized, the better everything will be. And again, some of these things may change for a variety of reasons. The main one is COVID. Year 13. This will be next year. Compulsory meetings. Again, these mandatory meetings are going to be, what have you done over the summer? Let's see your draft of your essay, your personal statement. Let's see your CV resume if you know it's necessary. Let's look at your applications. Mainly, let's look at these deadlines. What is your short list now? What have we decided? And what kind of work have we done? Hopefully, again, they come in very well prepared in August, September. So here are some of the deadlines that we're looking at. UK Oxbridge, those applications are going to be early. So if your son or daughter knows for a fact that they're going to be applying to one of these, this summer is very, very important. We want to make sure that we have everything prepared right at the beginning of the school year. UK Medical, Dental, and Veterinary, October 15th. USA Early Decision, Early Action, starts in October, and there are many, many, many deadlines. So again, calendar, putting this stuff on a calendar and making a timeline, make sure you document the deadlines, very important. Now, after submitting these applications, the waiting game exists, which can cause a lot of stress and anxiety. We can lower that by sending a very, very qualified application. Offers typically made between December and April. There are some schools in the United States that are not even in the United States. They happen other places, but mainly in the United States. Rolling admissions. Rolling means as soon as their application system opens, could be August, could be September, you apply, you're going to get a decision shortly thereafter. There's not a deadline. So rolling admissions, you might see that. That means there is no deadline. You can apply whenever you want, and you're probably going to get a decision sooner than the schools with the deadline. A lot of schools have the deadlines, and you're going to find those out December through April. Students decide by May through June. That can be a complicated issue. If we have students applying to the UK, they got all their offers. They also love Australia. They want to go to Australia. The problem with that is those applications don't go in until the spring. So you have these offers from the UK. They're saying, okay, tell us if you're going to come here. Holy crap, I still have Australia applications that I need to do. How do I make a decision? We'll talk about how to do that at another time. Year 13, deadlines. We do have something called an STA deadline, a St. Andrews deadline. And it can be a little bit flexible, but we like to say 30 days because we need to be able to sit down with the student, look at their application, look at their essays, make sure everything's accurate. That 30 days gives us a buffer to make sure we can rectify anything that we need to fix. STA document deadline, it takes about a week to produce transcripts and other documents that are necessary for the application. So the overall application, again, we want to have that, the components, we want to have those well established, accurate, ready to go. And then again, the documents that we're going to have to provide for the application take about a week. So we would like to have your student understand the situation and have time to get that in. December, January applications. STA deadline, we are not here for 3 weeks to a month over the holidays. There's no resource for document sending. So we'd like to have most of these applications done by December 1st. So if we know there's a deadline in December or January, we're going to work with your child, and your assistance is going to be greatly appreciated to make sure that we're ready to go for those. Resources and events. C Alpha, we are very, very happy that we have now will introduce C Alpha, which is a platform for university applications. It is a place where we can consolidate everything that we need with your child in one place so we can understand what's happening, how we can proceed. We can submit documents through there, recommendation letters through there. Also with C Alpha, it has many other benefits. Research, direct links to universities. They have online webinars. It's an open door for a lot of information, and we will be presenting this to your students over the next few weeks. So we can track progress and do a lot of work through there. Google Classroom, as I mentioned, a lot of you may not be involved in this. Primarily, we try and keep it internal, and your students have access to this, especially the year 12s and year 13s. It has been well advertised, and they should be in this Google Classroom. If they are not in this Google Classroom, we highly encourage you to have them join the classroom. In this classroom, and this is not a place for chat. We don't have chats here. This is literally just places where we put, as it says, scholarships, internships, summer programs, contests, dates, and deadlines. There is so much information in that classroom that can benefit. It doesn't benefit everybody, but particular students like particular things. There is a lot of information in there that can be of great benefit to your son or daughter.
The next resource that we're going to introduce is the University Counseling website. And this has a whole lot of information about countries around the world and their application process, search resources, websites, scholarships, standardized exams, all sorts of resources. I highly, highly encourage you to either use that QR code or use the Google form if you would like access to that. That way I'll be able to add your name so that you can see it. Your children are able to see this automatically because they have access through their St. Andrews account. There are also specific resources for you as a family. So again, a great resource for you. On the website is listed events and visits. We have a calendar of all of the things that are happening. Alternatively, you can look at the Moodle calendar to find all of the events and visits that are happening in the university counseling world. It's important to note that when there are on-campus visits, they will be supervised. Either Rob or myself will always be in attendance when a university admissions officer is here. However, online, virtually, we are not always able to be in those meetings. So just so that you're aware, events happening on campus are supervised. Those that are happening on campus may not be. Okay, so some events for you, getting really specific here. So I'm going to introduce in just a minute something called a Family Priorities Survey. And that's what we're going to ask you to have with your son or daughter, is to have a discussion about these particular best fit, everything that we have talked about today. So we're going to encourage you to have that this week so that your son or daughter can come into their meetings with Rob or myself really prepared with their priorities and knowing exactly what you are expecting of them or hoping for them, and what they are expecting for themselves, so that they can make some good decisions as they do their student-led conference and preparation. We will have a virtual global fair happening in March. Again, the Thai University Fair. Really encourage you to come on campus to meet with the university representatives if your child is considering Thailand. Another thing that we're introducing this year is university counseling workshops for all of year 7 through year 13 families. That will be happening in April and June. Now, in this event, the first one happening in April, it will be an introduction to us and the university counseling program that we have here at St. Andrews. During that time, families will be asked to fill out a form so that they can choose the specific topics that they want to learn more about. So this will be a good chance for you to learn more about standardized exams and other elements that might be of interest in you. We're going to get really deep into those, much more so than we can do through a general process. So for example, we might have a session on specifically the UK or the US or Canada. So please cast your vote for the topics that you'd like to learn about. We will start that again, getting specific into topics in June and then throughout the next school year. Student-led conferences again, and then of course we're going to have many university visits and fairs that have not already been advertised yet. They will be announced over the next term. Okay, we are hoping that after this you are well prepared to have really honest and open conversations with your son or daughter. Again, about the countries, knowing the country is really important to helping them to prepare well. What sorts of careers do you think will be a good fit for them? You know their personalities, you know their hopes and dreams probably better than anybody. So you have a lot of input to give them and direction to give them. What are your values in regards to where you want them to be? And then, of course, finances. How much are you able and willing to support them as they leave St. Andrews? To help you have that conversation, we're going to give you a form where your child will complete their top priorities in order of preference, and you can complete your top priorities in order of preference, and then you can come together and have a dialogue about that. So again, we're hoping that you're able to do this before their university counseling meetings so that we can really help to support them in the direction that you are hoping that they go in as well. Okay, this is our last question. What is the answer to almost every university counseling question? This is kind of a funny one. Any ideas? It depends. So we've mentioned that so many times today. Again, your child's situation is very unique based on countries, preferences, study options, so many factors. So we're going to invite you to ask questions, and there may be a need to say, well, we can come back to that in our student-led conference, or please make an appointment where we can discuss your child's specific situation. But generally speaking, we want to open the floor to all of the questions that you have, and thank you for being here today with us in person. Any questions?
One thing I'd like to say also, Annie had just mentioned it. We see a lot of cameras going. These slides, have we decided where? These slides will be made available to you. So it's good to see the cameras going, because you can start work as soon as you go home. Did we decide where we're going to put these slides possibly?
Updated. The link will be, you'll just have the link. That link will be active.
Yep, you'll get them hopefully today or tomorrow in many locations. Questions, don't be shy.
My first and last question which is very important for me and my child. What are the best universities in which STA students have gone from last 5 years? Can you send us an email and just give us an idea so we can plan accordingly that we think will be the best university for, or you might help the student to get into good universities?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. So I'm going to go back to sort of the idea of what's the best university. So for every family here, the definition is going to be quite different. When we think about ranking lists, there are hundreds of lists of ranking, and they don't agree. So it's a little bit of a challenge to say what the best university is, just because we think that the best university is the best university for your child, the best university that fits them academically, where they're engaged, where they're happy, all sorts of things to consider. What is the best fit for them? Do you want to add anything to that?
I think you got it.
Yeah, we do have a list of universities that our students have been accepted to on our school profile, which is on our website, the STA website, as well as the University Counseling website. You can see that we have a variety of students and a variety of universities that they've been accepted to. I would say multiple countries around the world, multiple types of universities within public, private, you name it. So we are a large school, and we've seen a lot of great success at many, many different countries and many different places. Does that help at all? Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. So I think Rob can answer that one.
Yeah, and for anybody online that was unable to hear that, the question was about familiar faces, and the reason that people would like to know where we have sent our children is there might be STA alumni there. One of the other things we're really trying to do right now is increase our alumni association production. Alumni are of major, major benefit to not only us as counselors, but as families and students. They are very good people, students, for networking. And networking, as we all know, is a very, very important factor when it comes to these things. It's, again, the question is very, very difficult to answer. We have placed students all over the world. UK is a very, very popular place. So it might be one of the things as you're doing your research, and whenever we have the student-led conferences, or even during your son or daughter's mandatory year 12 meeting individually with one of us, something that we could talk about. If they do have universities in mind, we're able to find out how many students that we have that have matriculated to one of these universities. We'd be able to get more details in a little bit, but yes, that's a very good question. Familiar faces are very nice, obviously, but we will be able to get more information about that in the near future.
Thanks, Rob. One question from my side. Is there, you mentioned in the beginning that around 26,000 plus universities are already there, right? So is there any sort of analysis done on different criteria, and it is available with somewhere in your website or somewhere where it is a ready reckoner for all of us, so that we can go straight away into that and choose our options and prioritize our colleges? Yeah.
That's an absolutely great question. Your sons or daughters will be introduced to Cialfo tomorrow, and Cialfo is a very, very comprehensive search platform where they're able to search for universities all around the world, and it will give the criteria the IB scores, SAT scores, and they will be able to choose accordingly, according to reach, target likely, and all sorts of other priorities that they can consider. You will have access to CALFO at some point in the next week. You'll be receiving an email in your inbox, and you'll be able to log in from there. And then you'll be able to track your son or daughter's progress, as well as do some university searches yourself. So it's a fantastic resource for exactly what you said. And it's a little bit challenging. One of the reasons we love this platform is because it's able to do that. You can imagine with 26,000 plus universities, it's nearly impossible to find one place to do that. But that's where you'll find it. Great question.
We will also be providing a document during our individual meetings. Like I said, they're coming up soon. CALFO is #1 on the list. Great research possibilities there. We're also going to give you access to 3 more links that provide additional research above and beyond the CALFO possibilities. So that way you can use a few different methods to find out the information I think that you're looking for.
I think it also will be benefited by CALFO. So the parent was asking, once our child decides on a specific course, can STA provide a list of universities that excel in that course? So I think that would be CALFO, right?
Yes.
Okay.
That we can combine that similarly with the question that you asked. The resources that we provide will give information that you can compare and contrast. Again, it's individual situations a lot of times, but they will have access to information that will provide answers to that question.
And then we had another parent asking about universities in Europe, not actually like UK. Would that be discussed maybe in another session, I think, once you guys go through?
There are, again, similarities to how applications go through in European universities. For example, in the Netherlands, they have a platform for applications. Germany has applications. They have a system. So you can contact us and we can discuss that way. You can wait until your son or daughter has their individual meeting. We can progress through that avenue. And then student-led conferences possibly could bring that up also. But never hesitate to send us an email. Again, conversations obviously produce more information. Email takes a lot of typing. So contact us anytime and you'll get that information one way or another. But yes, we do have information to help there.
I'm going to add to that. That is a possibility for the university counseling workshops for year 7 through 13 families. So that's an option. And if that is a popular enough option, that's one of the sessions that we will run specifically. I will add that Germany has extremely unique circumstances. So if your child is interested in Germany, please get in touch with your counselor to make sure that they're meeting all of those requirements. Otherwise, generally speaking, for Europe, they are looking for the IB diploma. So that's something important to consider as well.
Yeah, if you know a German university is in the future, you might want to start looking into that now. It can get a little bit more complicated than some of the other ones. I think we started a little bit late, so we might have a few more minutes. Any more questions internally? You got it? Thank you.
First, thank you very much to providing this deck, which this one is very important. Another question is the ranking-wise universities we know, but we would like to also know the work stream-wise, which university is very good. For example, my daughter is more interested on this science. Maybe the X university is very good in terms of the ranking-wise, but the science stream is not good. So we want to like to see which one is the work stream side is very good, so where we can apply.
If I understood this correctly, the question was about your daughter. I'm sorry. Looking at science.
Yeah, work stream wise university ranking.
Okay, again, some of these sorting websites or platforms that we're going to show you, you can rank universities by science. You can rank them by courses or major, and it'll give you a good idea. And they're global, so it's not. The information we're going to get. You can rank. You can search by country. You can search by major or course. You can search by GPA, SAT scores. There's a variety of ways to find the information. But yeah, there are ranking systems for particular courses or subjects. Is that sufficient? I'm sorry if I'm not answering everything you need there. And again, anything that we aren't able to elaborate on here, please contact us anytime. We do very individualized sessions if we need to. Anyone else internally? Online? All good? No worries. Thank you for coming. We really appreciate your attendance and your participation, whether it be mandatory or involuntary. We really appreciate you being here. Thank you very, very much. And again, please contact us anytime. This is being recorded. If you'd like to watch it again, you're more than welcome to do that. We will post the slides somewhere for you to peruse at a later date. Thank you. Thank you. Have a great day.